Hey everyone, my name's Adam. This is Off Meta, and I am joined by my fellow hat people today.
Welcome to this edition of the Pod on the Clockcast. I'm going to get that over one of these days.
You can try and get it over, but everyone knows it's the Clocktower. No, that's the wrong
You
one.
don't even know the name
Pod
that you have.
Tower.
So
There we go.
I win.
See if that's still in the edit, Tyler, shall we, to see who wins.
Well, what are we going to call it when we don't talk about Clocktower things every week?
Who cares?
Yeah, we'll just change the name.
Okay, so we're going to have multiple
It'll be the
podcasts.
Root Tower. I don't know.
Yeah, does everybody like my plushies? Are they great?
New Root expansion,
So
right?
good.
No, nice. Charlie would love your plushies. He's my kid's big into plushies.
They can have them if they want.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
I guess
you
not. Sorry, I
can't.
misunderstood.
They're mine.
Okay, cool. So on the screen, can't quite see the. Let me just fix that for ye, chat. Boom. We have from last week still up and running. From last week, the last time we did the experimental ranking. This is the Al-Hadiq was the only S tier, followed by the Amnesiac at A, which was fucking robbed. Should have been S tier, followed by the Acrobat, the Alchemist, and the Atheist. And this week, today, first of all, Hayley, I don't know if you've got all of these.
No, that's what I asked you that before, and you were like, "Shut up! I'm trying to get this thing working." Just before we joined, so I was like, "What are we doing today?"
First of all, we're going to be reviewing, ranking the Balloonist. My God, Tyler, do you want to talk? Because apparently I have lost the ability to do that today.
Sure, we're going to start with the Balloonist.
Thank
It
you.
is a townsfolk role. Let's talk about what it does, shall we? The Balloonist. Each night, you learn one player of each character type until there are no more types to learn. In brackets, +1 snake charmer. I mean, outsider. +1 outsider.
Oh,
That's what it does.
Ed, unfortunately, Ed, if you would like to talk about previous rankings that we've done, you should have joined us last time when we did this. If you don't think the Al-Hadiq should be an S tier, that is your problem. You are wrong, and you are welcome to your opinion, but you are wrong.
Ed's going to listen and make me wax lyrical about the Al-Hadiq again. It's like my weekly habit now.
I was going to say the VOD's there, but it's not. We've had 2 weeks of
That's right.
not really being here.
Being sick and
We've
just
been
being
so
jumped.
Me
sick.
just getting on and being like, "Hi guys, everybody's still alive. I promise." What are you up to? I don't know. I'm just kicking back, reading some books, packing some stuff up. Anyway, but yeah. So the Balloonist.
While I was sick, I rearranged my board game collection. That's the stage of my life I was at, making room. I've made room.
I hope
here.
you filmed it. So you could put in who the new winner is, who gets to go on the case, and who gets thrown out.
This bad boy here, I'm thinking, is what's going to become like my second game behind Blood on the Clocktower. That is
Your room's so dark is that nobody can tell.
Yeah,
us
we can't
you're
see what
pointing
that
at.
is.
That's right. Spoilers for when we actually do a review or talk about other games other than Clocktower. So
I've been calling it the board game about generational trauma, if that clues anybody into what the game title might be.
doesn't help anyone at all. But
No,
anyway,
because I don't think that's actually what it's about. It's just what the title makes me think of every time.
which I guess at some point we should tell them what that is then, so that it now makes sense. The title of this game is My Father's Work.
Generational trauma.
Generational trauma. So anyway, Balloonist. I'm not sure about Balloonist. I've got to say I'm not sure about Balloonist for a couple of reasons. The Balloonist is far too often used just to add outsider manipulation to the script, which isn't fun. And there are other ways and better ways to do it. But then the information it then gets on top of adding the outsider manipulation is fucking goldmine if it gets to 4 days.
Yeah.
So
it's OP.
It's a very divisive role, right? So, I mean, like, when we were talking about it with Steve, his impression was the Balloonist, as it currently is written, is too powerful.
I think
And
so.
then there's a lot of people in the community that think the Balloonist is basically useless in any script that has any poisoning or any drunking of any kind, because then it's just, all of its information is useless and et cetera, et cetera. It's a tough one for me to grade on that level in a
Which
script
camp
where
do you fall in of those two that you've outlined?
well, I think the fact that it creates an outsider is something that the game needs more of, right? So that you have a little bit of a dearth of that. You only have so many roles that can make that happen: the Baron, the Godfather, and the Fangu. And then now you've got some other ones. The Huntsman and the Damsel dynamic, which we'll talk about some other time, is interesting to me. But the Balloonist, I think, is the fact that it adds an outsider. I'd love to see more of that. I don't know if it rises to the power. While it is cool to, to have these 4 roles in which for a fact, if you're sober, one of them is the demon, you have to play that a certain way, which some people don't like. And we've seen multiple times now where the Balloonist has gotten 4 days of completely sober information and still weren't able to act on it. They still weren't able to sift through that and go, this person's the demon, that person's the this, right? And so I think it can be tough without any other information to build off of it. In a vacuum, the Balloonist is not as powerful an info role as, say, like the Empath is.
It's funny how Balloonists don't exist type thing meta is what's out there, right? Because like you're saying, like it's like people don't trust its information, and I really don't get why. I hear what you're saying. So let's step back. If there is a widow on the script, is the widow picking the Balloonist? Can we trust the Balloonist information? I don't get why people don't feel that way about all information roles. I love your green straw, by the way. That's awesome. Sorry, I don't know why they don't.
I only drink from green devices so they can be chroma keyed out of existence.
So the Balloonist, I would say, is a great. If we go back to the original requirements, it is a great character to be. It is a great character to bluff as. It is a great character for good to actually be able to solve the game if they fucking listen to it. It's not the role's fault if people aren't listening to it. It's a great target for evil. The evil want to get rid of it. It's going to throw misinformation out there at first because it should be staying hidden for as long as it can, so it's not getting poisoned. I can't see any way that it is really not an S tier, other than the metas that are developed because of other players. It's nothing to do with the character itself. There's nothing to do with the role itself. It's all to do with how players are interacting with it right now that brings it down from anything other than S.
The only thing I would say about because I agree with you on all of those points, every last one of them, but I would think that if we're rating it on how effective it is, any role that's a townsfolk that takes away a townsfolk ability and adds an outsider ability in its place has to mark it down at least a little bit, at least to A, right? Because it does change the effectiveness of town. It does change one player's experience at least, because now they are an outsider where they would have been a townsfolk before. And I think that bears keeping in mind. But in terms of like the quality of the info and what you can do with it and how you can bluff the Balloonist if you're evil, all of that is a ton of fun. You're just coming up with names. You're just throwing suspicion. If it's like the easiest thing in the world to bluff. Yeah. Unless you just name somebody that's not in the game, in which case, it's trouble. We did some things where we drunked and poisoned Balloonists, and we tried to give them indications that they were the drunk and poisoned one by giving them information that was otherwise impossible. And that's fun to do too. If you feel like your Balloonist is having a hard time, you can do that. Show them a fifth night of information.
Show them the same person 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the other thing. You get a lot of like, oh, if there's a recluse on the script, it's basically useless, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, just don't do that. I mean, like, you can cast suspicion on their information. You can make them doubt their information without actually just being a jerk and being like, yeah, I showed you the recluse 3 times. So
yeah, I mean, people saying other things on the script being a problem. That's literally the problem for any character in Clocktower, right? Like,
Pretty
you
much.
have to consider it within its script, more or less. And people saying, oh, it's terrible if it's drunk or poisoned. Literally everything is terrible if it's drunk or poisoned. That's the point. Like, it's part of the puzzle to figure out, like, am I drunk or poisoned? It's part of what you have to get to the nuts and bolts of. I don't think that's the criticisms that people seem to have about the Balloonist. I feel are criticisms in general of character abilities. I think the amount of information it gets is phenomenal. Yes, it adjusts the outside account, but I think
the only thing I would say
that
is that
adds to the puzzle. It adds to the game.
The So if the empath is poisoned one night but not another night, right? The empath is going to get a correct number on one and a false number on another, most likely. And they have to use their information to figure out which one's correct. And if they kill into it and they're never poisoned again, then they're going to get sober information from there. The only issue, and the reason I agree somewhat with what people are saying about intermittent poisoning on a balloonist, is that their information is tied to the previous night's information, right? So if I put down a seen townsfolk next to somebody while they're sober, I can't show them a townsfolk again, right? Or I can show them somebody as the demon when they're poisoned, and they'll never be able to loop back around to that info, right? Because the storyteller put down seen demon next to the seamstress, right? And that's what it is. That information is now done. So it is one of the few roles that I can think of in Clocktower that is kind of, all of its information is predicated on the nights that happened previously and the order in which it is given. And so that intermittent poisoning can be more effective. Like if they're poisoned by a widow, then they're poisoned by a widow. That would be the same if you poison any other information role, like you're saying. It's the interaction of a poisoner itself, right? Oh, I'm poisoned tonight, but not every other night, and that can throw a wrench in the works for it.
Doesn't it throw a wrench for the start knowing characters as well, though?
Sure does. Yeah. Well, and that's why we put most of them in the B.
Yeah. We
put most of the we put most of the start knowing in if we go back to it into B category. I'm not arguing that the balloonist is a crap role or it shouldn't be highly ranked. These are my opinions on why maybe it doesn't rise up to an S. That's a pun, because it's a balloon.
Got it. Good job, Ty. Well done.
You're welcome. I don't agree that one night of info invalidates all the info. That is an exaggeration.
I don't agree with that at all. I was going to argue with that.
But I appreciate that other people do, and so I'm voicing it.
Other people are allowed to be wrong, Ty. Like let those other people be wrong. That doesn't mean you need to repeat what they're wrong about unless you're then telling them why they're wrong.
Some people say, many people are out there saying right now.
We do actually need to say what people are saying in chat for the purposes of the YouTube when it goes up in future and people that can't see the chat. So a couple of people. So Ed's been on this podcast before. You'll have seen episodes of them, several with Ed in. Ed is saying the point isn't that it's terrible if Droisened. The point is that it's terrible the entire game if it was Droisened literally only once.
Disagree, Ed. Ed, that's full of shit. Ed,
that's literally what you just said, though. You and Tyler both just said that you disagree with that.
Yeah, so let's explain that, right? If you're telling me you can never figure out I must have been poisoned on night 3 from a fucking balloonist information, but you could from any other role in the game, then I'm going to call bullshit. You have as much chance of figuring out which night you are poisoned as an empath as you are when you are poisoned as a balloonist. I'm sorry, Ed, but that's disagree. If you have to make the entire game being poisoned or drunk sucks. Not drunk. Drunk doesn't suck too much because then it doesn't add another outsider in play, right? But being poisoned the entire game does suck. But that's going to suck for any fucking role. And you can't listen to any role when they're poisoned. You have to figure that out. That's part of the game. I'm going to stop now, Ed. You didn't even like the poisoner. So you're biased in what you're saying about the poisoner, which is why you're not invited on to talk about
information in his social deduction games.
And I like shouting at Ed because he can't be here to defend himself.
Yeah, you don't shout at Ed when he's actually a guest on the show.
He can hear you at a normal vocal. He's not like distance is not a factor in this.
So where do you think it should be then, Hayley?
So before we move on to that, Rishi also said in chat, how do you feel about Balloonist from a storyteller perspective, trying to determine who to show to throw sus on or who to help clear and so on? Because storytelling is, the storytellers are players, and so it matters how it plays for a storyteller too.
Yeah, love it.
Ed's gonna do an invasion.
That's why I said it, Ed. We're in admin chat. You can't join us in admin chat.
Admin channel. You can't.
So in all seriousness, right? The Balloonist as a storyteller is another point of what I didn't cover, but what I was saying before. Everything that we've given everything else an S roll for is covered under the Balloonist as well, because it gives the storyteller emphasis to be able to help shape that thing. Like Tyler was saying, if the storyteller is fucked up and now not even necessarily fucked up, but if they're now in a situation where the storyteller hasn't given them demon or minion information and they've now outed that they're Balloonist, now evil's poison them for the rest of the game, there's not much you could do about it as a storyteller, right? There's not much you could do. I mean, you could flip it and show, okay, the minion's on the demon and the demon's on the minion. You could be a dick like that if you wanted to, which sounds like something I would do. But it's all part of the game. And I think everything that we talked about, the other roles, giving player emphasis, giving storyteller emphasis, giving everything out there, is that it's great for everything. It's great for every player involved. Good, evil, storyteller, everyone.
So you asked what rank where I would put it. I'd put it as an A. I think. Yeah. I'd probably really strongly want to put it as an S, but
I mean we need to rank the Fabled at some point so that we can talk about the Sentinel. So if the Sentinel is actually what ranking that Sentinel should get, and maybe that's what we need to switch to next time before we continue on with the.
Is that fair? Because I feel like we'll be kind of ranking people as well.
People don't know about that, but yeah, I think we need to talk about it because the Sentinel basically does the same thing where it's adding an outsider potentially. Like that's, I think it's just something you deal with.
So where would you put it, Tyler?
I agree with Hayley that I think it's an A. I think all of the things that Adam said are valid. I think some of the things that Chad is saying are valid.
Incorrect.
I said some. I didn't say which. Somebody's got to be the good cop. We can't just be three bad cops. But
that's a fun TV show, that though. Three bad cops.
Three bad cops. Yeah.
Versus Chad.
I think that's the Shield.
All right,
so
A it is, then I'm overruled.
I think it's A. I think it's good in the A position because I think it does. I think it adds a lot more than what chat is saying that it adds, or what some people are advocating for. It's not as fun for the evil team if the Balloonist is on a script where their information can never come into question. There's no reason to doubt it. So I don't feel that's fun. So you have to put a little bit of a hint that they might be poisoned or drunk or otherwise lying.
Have to. Yep.
Now, if you're saying Balloonist drops to an A tier because what even is a Balloonist? Like, I mean, I know that the icon is, hot air balloons, but I like to think of them as those, balloonists at kids' parties that make little animals out of balloons.
It'd be funny if it's just a picture of a balloon and a little knot, right? It's just that little cross section. I know about people because I made this into a snake. Anyway.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Next up is the Bounty Hunter. You want to read off the Bounty Hunter for us?
Next up is Boomdandy.
That's not on the list. Okay, fine. Yes, Boomdandy.
I can't rearrange that list.
I got you.
But it's fine. We'll do Bounty Hunter next.
Boomdandy.
Bounty Hunter.
You are what?
Carry on. Boomdandy.
If you are executed, all but 3 players die. 1 minute later, the player with the most players pointing at them dies. It's just fun, isn't it?
No, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Of course you don't.
I don't like it.
It doesn't like fun. We know that about it.
How does
well,
that
tell
work
us why
on
you don't like
streams?
it. So you didn't read it, so you get to tell us why you.
We've
don't
had it on stream,
enjoy
Hayley, so you should have been watching it and being able to answer that question.
I didn't. I was busy.
We have a pretty famous game in which Carly. In fact, I think our biggest YouTube watch game is the game with Carly and Linksa, where it was the Boomdandy trigger. So well done, Hayley.
I did not have those numbers at all.
No, you did not. So Boomdandy, I hate it. Carry on, Ty. Do you like it first, or do you not like it?
I do. I like the drama of it, sort of. I think it's a little bit. It's definitely one of those roles that adds a very different dynamic to your game, and you're just questioning whether or not somebody who wants to be executed, if you should let that go through. And I kind of like that. One of the things that kind of irritates me about the way in which some players play certain good roles is they go, well, I'm already done. I've used my ability. I guess just go ahead and execute me. Like, why? Like, why is that good for the good team? I could be validated by an Undertaker. It's like, well, you can validate yourself, right? You just, you remember your token. You don't need somebody to tell you. Anyway, that's a thing. That's a personal pet peeve, and so I kind of like that the Boomdandy makes people go like, "Hey, they really want to get executed. They really seem to want that to happen," and I'm just not into it. But I think I do think that game where the Pit Hag turned themselves into the Boomdandy on our channel was exceptionally entertaining. I think it was very surprising. I think a starting Boomdandy may not have the same oomph because it's like, well, I kind of saw that coming. But where it's like you've gone this whole game, things have happened, and then all of a sudden it's like boom goes the dynamite. I think that's pretty fun. People pointing at each other. I imagine it's pretty fun in a live game to have it to count down and then just everybody's fingers go in a direction. That could be pretty fun. It's a little bit of a pain in the neck online because people are like changing their screen names and stuff, and it's just like, all right, not as entertaining. I don't know. I think it's for the evil team. Depending on when the Boomdandy goes off, it could either very easily secure the evil team a victory, right? If it goes off late, then it actually gives the good team an opportunity to narrow down who the demon is, right? So if you're like, oh, we're executing at 5, we think it's between, or we think it's between this person and this person. Oh, they went off. They're the Boomdandy. We thought they were the minion anyway, or possibly a minion. So let's go after this other person. It's a pretty easy choice at that point. So it can have, very different effects on whether or not it's beneficial to the team that it stays on. And I think that I would put that as a B because I think it is fun. I think it can be fun in small doses, but it's not always the most, doesn't always give as much to the evil team. I think it's situational in that way.
Yep. Yeah, I could go with that. I mean, I think it's more of a C. So the problem that I have with the Boomdandy is you just mentioned like it can guarantee. I don't think it can guarantee an evil win. Like it has to have had the stars line up and the information point at that direction to really give evil even a chance. It just forces.
Well, if you executed the Boomdandy on day 1, right, and it's a 12-player game or 10-player game or whatever, it's like, well, I mean, it's gonna be hard for the demon to have made themselves too apparent or have much dirt on them by now. People are just pointing fingers and trying to make a decision.
I don't think that's fun though.
I said it can't. I was countering the argument that it can't secure evil a win. I think that's pretty much secures evil to win. I agree that's not as much fun.
Yeah, I mean it gives evil a 66% chance of winning, right? Because it puts it down to 3 players and you have to pick between the 3. So, I mean, I guess that's as good as it could possibly be for evil. Really, in any best case scenario, that probably was going to happen in that game. But I just don't think it's fun. I don't think it's enjoyable to be dropped down to 3 early. I don't think it's necessarily enjoyable to be dropped down to 3 late. I think that game that's up on YouTube is one of the few examples, like you say, that I thought it was excellently well played by Evil. Evil set it up. It was the prime example of how to use the Boomdandy. But that's not going to happen in every game. It was a pretty
great example of how to use a Pit Hag.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, either way.
I think. It was, like I said, situationally, I'm glad let me put it this way. If I were to put it in C, I would say, I'm not really all that glad it's in the game, right? If I put it in B, I'm saying, I'm glad it's around. I'm glad people can do it. Do I want to see it all the time? No.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how many experimentals we're going to put in C, right? But
okay.
I'm also going to...
Well, we can put it in C. Let's put it in C.
I'm saying...
Let's hit the quotas.
I'm not sure how many characters we're going to put in C. But I'm also not sure which characters I'm going to want to go beneath it that I can think of that are coming up, right?
You can't... Okay.
I can... When you're saying, am I happy it exists? I'm not happy it exists. I'm not glad it exists. But it does exist. And I do like... The only thing I like about it, like you say, is it makes people question... It adds an element where it makes people question why people wanting to die. Same as the Goblin. But I think the Goblin's better for that reason. I
think you like playing out at evil more than your average bear. So the Boomdandy can give somebody that aspect of what you might get out of a goblin without having to play out at evil in the same way.
I'm really not a big proponent of out at evil, Ty. I don't like I've done it well in the past, but I'm not a big proponent that it should happen constantly or consistently because as evil, if you are out at evil as a minion, it is much that removes a player that can be the demon, and that's not what you want to be doing. So I'm not a big proponent of it, but I don't think the Goblin out she was evil, because I've seen good players do it. I've seen the demon do it. I've seen minions do it. I've seen outsiders do it. I've seen everyone do it. So I don't think that the goblin makes you out at evil either. But
Sure.
I don't know. I'm just not sure about the Boomdandy. So I'll
Alright.
put it in B if you really want it in B. But I can't think of many worse.
I'm
that
not
we're
that
gonna cover.
passionate about it.
Rishi-
I'm not like Al Hadik passionate about it being in B. Come on, baby.
Rishi is made a good point. Should a Boomdandy be ranked below the Atheist?
No. Yes, it should be lower than the Atheist. I don't think the Atheist should be lower than a B. But that's biased because I know what's coming up to make the Atheist great. Whereas I can't think of anything coming up that makes the Boomdandy great. Move into the middle.
Is
of the
it
camera.
is it not like good to play though? I don't think I've played a Boomdandy, but I just see that it could be a lot of fun to play as that particular role.
Okay. B it goes.
I think you would argue that playing the Boomdandy once is probably a lot of fun, but sure, it's diminishing returns. But all right, we're gonna put it in the B.
All right.
Provisional B ballot for you, Boomdandy.
So let's talk about an S tier then. Bounty Hunter. You start knowing one evil player. If that player you know dies, you learn another evil player tonight. One townsfolk is evil. I think I got that right. Bounty Hunter. Do it.
Yep.
You didn't just read it from the image you shared in our admin chat now.
Yeah.
Okay. Why are you not sure you got it right?
I think I didn't make any mistakes is what I mean.
I see. You didn't do your usual
100%
style.
clarity.
Yeah.
And it's a long one. It's a long one.
That's right. Thanks
It's
for
got
dumping on me.
brackets, punctuation, all kinds of different things. So the bounty hunter, I think I have maybe cooled a little bit on the bounty hunter over time. I think originally
Really?
I would have said it's fantastic. There's some things that I've seen done with the bounty hunter that I think are counter fun and counter to the spirit of what it's supposed to do. Making the bounty hunter evil by the bounty hunter's ability is something that I have come to be in opposition to. I don't think that fits a townsfolk role to say, what's your ability? Well, you made an extra evil player and you get to know one by one who's also on your evil team. It's you, right? Like that seems to be counter to the spirit of the game or to what a townsfolk should do. First of all, it is a legal play, so people do it sometimes. I think sometimes the bounty hunter can be the focal point of the game a lot of times because, they know immediately. And if we kill this person, I will know more information, that kind of thing. And that can be fun for some groups. And I think it can be less fun for other groups because it's one person who is kind of controlling the narrative about everything that's going on. So we either eliminate the bounty hunter or we eliminate the pings. So I think it's an interesting one in how my personal feelings on it have shifted over time. It's hard to argue with a role that gets to see evil players, but it's also hard to make an argument for a role that also adds evil to the game in a game where that's pretty potent. Having an evil whatever can be a very big deal. Evil townsfolk in any kind can be a very big deal for the game itself. So, in any case, that's what I got on it. I don't know that it rises to an S, even despite I think the cost benefit doesn't let it rise up to an S, but I imagine people do find it fun. I would rather draw the bounty hunter than a lot of roles because you are active, you are going for it, right? You're in the thick of things.
Yeah.
So as a player, it's going to be fun. As a storyteller, it can be a lot of fun. You can do a lot of things to manipulate it. I'm just wondering if it's an S role or not.
I mean,
Hayley, what do you think?
Well, so I just want to highlight again. So Rishi in chat is saying that by your qualifier earlier on about the Balloonist of it adding an outsider, this making a townsfolk evil would mean that you would be opposed to putting it anything above an A anyway, like you felt about the Balloonist.
Rishi interpreted what I was saying correctly.
Yeah. I thought so. I like the Bounty Hunter. I think it's fun to play. I think it's fun for a storyteller to modify a game. I think it's fun to bluff as well, especially in a bigger game where maybe you just like want to throw one of your fellow minions under the bus. I think that could be quite funny. Like you could give it actual evil information to make people believe that you truly are a bounty hunter. I do think it's good. I see your criticisms. I don't think I disagree with them either. So, Adam, I feel like you opened this with bounty hunters are great. So, do you want to take the why it should be an S?
If you want to shit on the Balloonist because you can't necessarily trust this information if it's poisoned or not, and the fact that it adds an outsider, being those 2 points together mean that you can't, that is not an A tier, that is not an S tier. I don't think you can make that same argument for the bounty hunter. The bounty hunter still absolutely finds out who evil is unless it's poisoned, right? But then the chance of being hit on a night 1 poison is really limited probably to just the weirdo on a consistent basis being on the script. Otherwise, it's not necessarily finding that out. And it's still, it's giving that storyteller control again, because you're getting control what evil players you show and what evil townsfolk you create. So even though there is an evil townsfolk in the game, that evil townsfolk is out there and the bounty hunter probably is going to find out who they are for a start. So it's not as impactful as the outsider impact into the game. And also that townsfolk still has an ability. So there are townsfolk roles in there that even if they're evil, poppy grower, right? For example, still benefit town to be in play. There are still townsfolk ability out there that if in play still get to benefit town. It's I think that it is a different case to adding the outsider from the Balloonist, which is why I still think it's S tier. Now let's talk about some of those roles that it can make evil again, and I'm going to bring up that fucking Amnesiac. The Amnesiac is the best role in the game, right? Not only is it the best role in the game, it is the best role for the bounty hunter to turn evil in the game, because you get to create so much chaos with the Amnesiac. I'm just going to leave that out there in the ether. Chat can figure that one out. Chat can go away and look at it and go like, oh my god, he's correct. Someone in chat, now's your chance to turn around and say, oh my god, Adam's correct.
You have to give it 30 seconds.
I'll just wait. I'll just wait. We're not continuing chat until you do it.
So I feel
Ed
so,
is typing up a long
that
paragraph about how correct you are about evil.
Yeah. Remember that game at PAX Unplugged? And again, this one that was one that Carly was playing with us in person. This is Gnarly Carly Gaming, that Carly, folks. So she was the evil townsfolk and hadn't realized that she was the evil townsfolk. She'd been given a thumbs down and was still playing for good. So does that like drag it down a little if it's if it's not necessarily clear that you can have a townsfolk ability and be playing for the evil team?
Look at that, an evil sailor on a leech script. Come on, it's genius. Who doesn't love it? Okay,
I just don't. So when like having evil townsfolk is fun, is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they made a minion that allowed that to happen. Like it's a minion ability. It is a minion ability, right? So
Yeah.
I just think the cost of what the bounty hunter does brings it down a little bit in my estimation. And then just like I said, what do you you see a lot of bounty hunter double claims. It's hard to differentiate between them because it's such a powerful role. It draws so much attention. It is an automatic. I mean, I won't say automatic. People get to make their own choices. But if I saw a bounty hunter on a script and I was the philosopher, I'm becoming the bounty hunter. Gosh darn it, right? That's just the way it is. So I think there's some balancing issues. I think there's some issues of how much it could be good for your town, how it fits on a lot of scripts. We had to add no, not that one. But we've had, you see a lot of bounty hunter on scripts with other roles that can turn evil, and so you get a Spirit of Ivory situation that you have to contend with. In any case, I don't know. That to me, I think it is an A tier role. I think it is really great. I just think it has come down a little bit in my estimation over time from seeing it played and seeing how it's kind of gone over.
I'm really sorry to hear that for you.
That's
To
okay.
hear that for you.
I mean,
You
it's
really
probably
want
your
it in
fault,
S, do you, Adam?
Fucking hell. I cannot believe this is not going in S. Straight up, honestly, I cannot believe I cannot believe Amnesiac didn't go in S, and I cannot believe the Bounty Hunter isn't going in S. I am
I
curious.
agree with you
What
on
is
that.
If we want to
Amne.
revisit Amnesiac, the reason we put Amnesiac there is because it was the
No, I get
savant
it.
argument.
I get it. I do get it. I do know why. I remember being. I remember.
I'm using your own words and thoughts when I
Don't do that
formulate
to me.
arguments.
Don't do it to me. Don't be logical when you argue.
I kind of really do want the Amnesiac in S, but like, because I feel like we did the mayor dirty as well. Like the mayor should have been higher up than
the
it
problem
was.
I'm looking at, Amnesiac, Bounty Hunter, I don't know what I'm going to put in S over them. I just don't know. So it can go provisionally in A right now, but I think we're going to have to revisit it. When we get further along in this, I can't picture what we're going to put into. What? Like,
I know, I can tell you right now, and unless y'all spend like the next few weeks coming up with ways to dissuade me from it, Pixie will be an S tier role, townsfolk.
Yeah.
Just I will accept nothing else.
I mean, I guess
Right? That's but
there's a few minions coming up, I guess. That
there's
I really like.
yeah, there's stuff, I think.
It's just going to be a red top row. That's what we're seeing. Red top row and Pixie. Showing
A
up.
teddy
Showing where
bear
our thought
among
process
all
is.
of that evil. Yeah.
Well, we could have made this a very short short series and just been like, yeah, we'll just tell you all the S tier townsfolk roles and stuff real quick. Yeah, let's do that. Oh yeah, we'll have to get into. There's some really good ones on here. I think we maybe underselling it a little bit, but anyway, if you want, I mean, if that's a hill you want to die on, Adam, we can put it in the S tier. I don't think Chad agrees with you. Not that I know that doesn't dissuade you. And
oh no, chat doesn't agree with me. That will be the first time that's happened.
Gollum may not be S tier
No,
by
I'm not
the
sure about
by the conditions that we have been rating Outsiders so far.
Yeah, people are
just based on
suggesting.
because it was well, we'll get to that when we get to it, I guess. But
Yep.
but the rules that we were using for Outsiders, how much the evil team would want to see that on a script, and it's a good question about the Gollum.
Even down to how easy is it for evil to bluff us?
Yeah, it's pretty hard for evil to bluff fast.
So,
Unless you're saying, I just picked the demon again. Weird.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Next up on the list, the Cannibal. You have the ability of a recently killed executee. If they are evil, you are poisoned until a good player dies by execution.
Cannibal. Cannibal's a tough one. Cannibal deserves to be higher than I'm probably going to say I think it is. I think that the Cannibal and the fact that it operates a day late, I think the fact that it operates a day late, getting its information, but at the same time it does potentially confirm what someone else was, like a Slayer shot or something could potentially work out. An artiste question. I mean, the storyteller can still lie and give you whatever they want if they think you're the artist. But it's the Cannibal. I don't think deserves to be anything more than a B because it is too dependent on what died before, and not only what died before. If it was an evil character that died before, is it evil character or is it evil role? What's the Cannibal?
It's evil.
If they're evil, yeah. So even if it's like an evil townsfolk or whatever, or goon or whatever else that's been turned evil, right? It can still get absolutely trash info. So I think the Cannibal is harder to justify being an A tier than anything else because it is impacted not just by poison but by what died at night the night before, right? Like it's impacted by so much, which brings it down in my opinion.
It does
kinda
allow
disagree.
town to make some really strong plays, right? So if I'm the Cannibal and I coordinate, if people are just like, I might just die for the Cannibal, right? That's one thing. But if you you know that the artist has used their ability, and of course you could be poisoned, in which case a minion or an evil townsfolk willingly went to the block to poison you. So you've gotten an evil off the board so that they can confound your ability to where you think you're the artist twice, right? Well, great. But in any case, in a lot of instances, the same into things that you can get from an Undertaker, a lot of times you can get from a Cannibal. It's not always as consistent. You're obviously not going to know that this was the Scarlet Woman, great. But you might just get weird information. Storyteller can be kind or they can be harsh on you as they deem fit. But regardless, you can have this potential ability to set up some really neat plays with townsfolk to the point where storytellers a lot of times try to mess with you so that the cannibal can't do all that. I think it could be pretty potent in that instance. I once saw I ran a game in which the cannibal ate a goon, and then they got targeted by the Godfather. That was pretty funny. So they were evil, couldn't turn. Unless if somebody got executed, they couldn't turn back. That was. I don't know if that's an argument for the cannibal, but it's funny. And I think they won. So, but I think the cannibal is a skosh better than a bee. I understand what you're saying about it. It is kind of dependent on what's come before, but it's not just an information roll; it's a power roll on top of it. If they ate a philosopher, then whoa, bar the doors. It's going to get weird up in this piece. So I think there's some neat stuff that can come from that. And I think it's a little bit more potent than a bee.
Yeah, I think I agree there. Is because it's like you say, it's not just information. You also get that ability as well. When that is a good player that has died, that's so powerful. You can get to run with things twice. Maybe you'll end up with a juggler late in the game, like we wanted, right? And you can have a cannibal that's juggling on day 3.
That's right. We're making a script about just to show off how good a juggler can be if allowed to delay its action.
And actually make it so a cannibal could be good as well. I'm not saying there aren't scenarios out there where the cannibal could be S tier. I'm saying not only do you have to set up the script to be perfectly allowing the cannibal to be S tier like that, but you also have to have the players go out of their way to make the cannibal S tier, and that's why it's not S or A tier in my opinion. It's like too many dependencies to make the cannibal fantastic. Too many things need to happen for the cannibal to be fantastic, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've gone whole games as the cannibal in which it hadn't amounted to much, right? But there's been other games where I've played the cannibal and it's been pretty neat. I don't think it requires all that much. I actually think that a lot of like storytellers and widows and things like that go out of their way to make sure that the cannibal can't be effective. And I think that's a signifier of how potent it can be, right? They know if they get that if they get the chef info twice, that the chef's not that the chef is a good player, that that's not a lie, which is just information. But then you layer that on top of, like we're talking about, a second Slayer shot, artist shot, philosopher ability, seamstress ability, any of those types of things, that can all be pretty cool. But if you don't think that rises up to an A,
I'm not going to push hard.
We
for
did
it to
drag
go
down
up
your
to
bounty
an A.
hunter, huh?
Yeah, I'm not going to push hard for it to go up.
Yeah, I can't. Do I think it's as good as an Amnesiac, a Balloonist, or Bounty Hunter? No. Do I think the Atheist is better than it? Do I think the Alchemist could be better than it? I think the Alchemist and the Cannibal are in a pretty similar situation in terms of depending on what's on the script, depending on what it can become, depends on how much fun it can be and how good it can be for good. I think that's partially where I'm at with it. So I think it's in that same boat as Alchemist.
All right, B it is then.
Yeah, that's fine by me. And I guess it's not a great bluff either. If we're applying all criteria, like it can be, I guess, if you're willing to sort of guess.
It's a pretty
in conjunction with a spy kind of.
You got to find out.
Widow,
you got to find out what people are.
Yeah, exactly. But that's going to be tough to bluff as that as well. I mean, we saw it, didn't we, last week? Somebody tried to bluff as Cannibal on the evil team, and
they won.
One of the good players, yeah, they did win. But the good players were like, why the heck haven't you been telling us, like, anybody, what your information has been so far? Why haven't you given a damn who's died and what their abilities were? So
it was bluffing as cannibal/mutant. So it was a little bit justified as to why they weren't fully out, but it was suspicious in my opinion. But it didn't backfire on them. But all right, next up is Choirboy and King.
All right,
because we're going to do this together.
Oh,
yeah, y'all read them at the same time.
Okay, ready, Adam?
Choirboy, if the king,
if the dead outnumber the living.
that was both a false start on Adam's part and probably a bad idea in general. All right,
you go first, Adam.
Choirboy, if the demon kills the king, you learn which player is the demon plus the king.
King, Each night, if the dead outnumber the living, you learn one alive character. The demon knows who you are.
So when we were talking about this episode, obviously alphabetically, Choirboy was on our list, but it seems impossible to rate the Choirboy without talking about the king. It just doesn't make any sense in a vacuum. So that's why we put them together. I think that I want to start off by saying I kind of wish there were more linked roles, like the Choirboy King and the Huntsman Damsel. I think that does skew my way of thinking about it, but I really like that dynamic between these two roles that are connected in a certain way and they play off each other. And then the Choirboy's ability is pretty powerful, but mostly it's just there to say, like, don't kill the king, you jerks. You already know who they are. Just leave him alone. He's just here to play the game, right? So Choirboy's kind of like a baked-in Stormcatcher, sort of, for that particular role, which I think is interesting.
So king equals seeing Choirboy as A. It's probably where I'd be at if I had to pick. The king doesn't normally get to be as impactful as it probably should be. Doesn't normally get to live till the final end, and if you are making it to like final 3, you know for a fact one of those roles you're going to be told that's alive is the king. Any good storyteller worth their salt will tell the king that the king is still in play. So it's really difficult. I mean, especially in larger games, right? When you get 7 are dead, 6 are now alive, you get to start finding out information. It's like, oh, right, you got to give them the king at some point in my opinion. But I think the Choirboy is a lot more fun to be for me personally than the king. I think I'm more excited to be the Choirboy, knowing there's a king in play, knowing that it's out there, and that hopefully at some point they're going to get to kill him, and I'm going to get to find out information. I think it's a lot more fun. I think it sets up more interesting plays for evil. When we talk about the Widow having a really negative impact on town, like in terms of the Amnesiac and Balloonist and Cannibal and all those other roles that can directly impact. Poison the Choirboy instead of the king is fucking hilarious, in my opinion, because you're going to coordinate that with the demon. Hopefully you're alive till near the end. Kill that demon right near the end and let the Choirboy find out some bullshit. Like, just do it. Just do it and have shits and giggles with it. But it's a tough one. I think the king's ability, like I've said, on its own doesn't gather as much information that is useful to town as it probably should on paper, and I don't know if that comes back to being a player issue like I was mentioning before rather than a role issue, but in my experience it doesn't get as much good information as it would sound like it should from the role.
The one thing I'd say about the king, though, is that it seems to be very quickly trusted. We've seen some claims, but then most of the time people come off their double claim of it, and the legit king is trusted by town, and that's pretty. And there's nothing mechanical about that. I think it's just like they're like, well, evil already knows, so they come out and they say their piece. What else are they gonna do? The Choirboy is obviously the more potent of the two. I think things like Drunk Choirboy are funny, but they're not necessarily. Obviously, that's an outsider, so it's a little bit different. But I think the Choirboy is pretty interesting in what it can learn and how it supports the king and how you can play it. You can play that a lot of different ways. It is interesting because it is so definitive. It's like you either know who the demon is or you're poisoned, right? That's what you got. Which is that's pretty potent if you think about it. And you didn't have to draw fire to do it. You had to make sure that they didn't think there was a Choirboy in the game at all. I don't know why you'd I think putting a widow or a spy in a game with a Choirboy king is just kind of like, I don't know, a little janky, boss.
Thank you.
So, although we're ranking,
well, it doesn't have a home script anymore, the king and Choirboy. So I think you're gonna get to make your own choices about what you want to do.
Yeah.
I think that was his point, though, is saying that I think once we find and see the King Choirboy's home script, it'll be probably very interesting. And that might be true, because there are definitely some roles in there on the experimental stuff that definitely sound like they're aligned to King and Choirboy. I don't know if they do, but
and the thing that, So with these, although we're ranking them both together, the king can exist without the choirboy, but the choirboy cannot exist without the king.
Yes, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And so does that pull the choirboy
No,
down?
don't you dare. I mean, it really is just on first glance that I say the choirboy is higher than the king because of the choirboy's ability, but the choirboy has to make it to pass the king for its ability to be useful. But if it does trigger, it's super useful. It's a good bluff. It's a good character to be. It's not probably a good character for me to be because I don't normally make it late in game, but it's a good character for a lot of people to be. Sorry, Tyler, go on.
Yeah, it's hard. I would say to me, you almost have to grade these as a pair. I don't know that the king is, I don't think that the king is any worse than the choirboy since they necessitate each other. Yes, we've done things where I've had a king in a Stormcaught king situation. And I thought that was a lot of fun. So you could do that. But the only way you could have a choirboy but no king is if the choirboy is just the drunk, which is interesting too, sort of. I think there's just a lot of different things that you can do that are fun with the pair of them. I think I don't know how utilitarian they are across scripts, and they can win games for town either way, right? So the king can generate a lot of trust. It is easy for evil to bluff. You know that there's not a king in play, so you can go with it. It's a free bluff, which is always thinks is a fun little deal. The choirboy is fun for evil to bluff because they may not know their choirboy's not in play, but they sure know there's a king. So going to that king and saying, "Hey, I'm back in your play. I'm your choirboy at some point a couple days in the game." Is pretty fun, right? And then if they get the king on board and they kill the king. Then the choir, when I come back and go, guys, I've been your choir boy all along, and the demon is, so and so. I think that stuff's a lot of fun. I don't know. I as a pair, and I just like the paired mechanic. I'd probably put them as a pair, an A pair. I don't know.
An A pair. You would put these motherfuckers as an A pair.
I just like I've already stated, for the record, that I like the tandem rolls. I think they're pretty neat. I don't think they're a C. That's crazy. You asked your mind, Ninja.
I think my gut is saying B.
Okay. I'll go with B. I got excited. I just like I like what it does. I want to see it on more scripts. Oh. More couples. Couples dates. Date night with the king and the choir boy and the huntsman and the damsel and more and more and more. All right, but B, I guess.
You might change your mind on that in the next few weeks when you spend a lot of time in your couple. Less couples, less dates. We have lived in the same 900 square feet together for 3 years.
It was a difference, 900 square feet.
I'm pretty into coupling. I guess that's my problem. And anyway, so
I thought I was too, Tyler. I got to say, I thought I was too. I think, like I was saying, though, I think the choirboy's higher than the
You're
king.
living in Darth Vader's tomb or whatever, where he gets he gets revitalized.
So are you saying that Adam, you would put the choirboy in A and the king in B, or further down, you'd put the king in C?
Well, I think the choirboy is an A role. I think it's an A ability. I think the only downside to it is you got to live till near the end to make it useful. I think that's the only downside to the choirboy, and it's a pretty big downside for a lot of players out there. But I think the choirboy ability, what it does to the game. If evil start bluffing us, you know they're lying. You just have to, if two people come out at the end of the day, you got to know who one evil player is, and that makes you even trust your information probably more if you're pointing at different players to that person. If you suddenly point at the same person, you go, shit, I've been poisoned. But yeah, that's where I'd be at. So
you want to put choirboy in the A, and then put the king in the B or C?
That's right. I'm okay with it being B. I know I can hear how much you love the two as a combo, so I'm okay with it. But that's what I would probably do, personally.
I'm fine with that, I think. But if you think that they should be paired together, Tyler, then we'd have to decide between A or B. I don't think Adam's going to let you put it in A.
Fuck no. Not as the person that controls the Photoshop.
Fair enough. I do think that the king, like, it's funny that in your case about the king, and yes, it does need the field to narrow to start getting its information. But you like deliberately are like, well, when any storyteller with assault is just going to fuck the king and not give it valid information by showing it a role that it already knows is in play because it's in play, right? Like, I mean, that's to
yeah.
me, that's a case for an ability being good, not bad, and thus not a C quality role. Is that your storyteller feels like they need to, I mean, like, of course, like what's alive when the king's there and that final grouping of players. If you had 11 players, okay, you're down to 5. What are you going to see? Well, you might see what the demon is, right? That can be very good information, especially if town is still stumped on that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can be great. You might know, a minion's still alive. Uh-oh, we've been playing this all wrong. We thought we got them all.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's the Scarlet Woman, and we have to kill her today, otherwise.
Yep. I mean, there's just a lot. I think there's a lot of interesting things you can do with a king, and maybe it's being underrated. I've seen a king who's had a lot of pull in town, had a lot of information, and it's not just like the player. It's something about the role. It's something about the fact that you kind of stand above the good and evil fray. You're like, evil already knows who I am. I ain't worried about that. Take your shots, boss. And so people kind of align with it. That's what I've seen, and I've run a lot of King and Choirboy games.
All right, Tyler's convinced me. They both stay in B.
You can move the Choirboy up to A. I just think it's funny. It adds that role. So anyway, I guess that does make the Choirboy even better because it adds an already wonderful role, the king, to the game.
It's true, I guess.
Which puts it above the Balloonist and Bounty Hunter. I mean, by all estimations, I think.
Well, it doesn't add a townsfolk to the game. It
doesn't add a townsfolk, but
a townsfolk to be.
It makes this wonderful role that we all know is very strong. Anyway,
become evil,
and it knows it's there. Yeah, it makes it evil.
In game, Bounty Hunter turns it evil. There you go.
That's right.
An evil king.
Like we haven't had those in history.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think.
Well, leave it to Australians to make the king a good townsfolk role. Like, where have they been all their life?
I think we're done then, right? That's it. That's the 6 for today. We're at time.
Those are the 6 we got for today. Yeah, so you can check these out if you haven't already. Go to our YouTube, youtube.com/offmetaplays. You can see the earlier episodes in the series if you want to see how we got to this point. You can watch them in a fun playlist that is put together, and they are it's edited out all the stuff where we talk about plushies and fight amongst ourselves.
Not
so
this
it's
last
all
one.
just solid content.
Not this last one. I needed to go in and add the timeline thing to it to show. For the first 4 minutes and 38 seconds, we talk about crap. But I forgot to do it.
Sometimes crap is fun.
I liked it. That's why I left in. It was good.
Adam doesn't interrupt me on the YouTube. He just cuts out everything I say. So it's very seamless.
Streamline
In any
it.
case,
it's called streamline.
Streamline. In any case, so you can check that out at youtube.com/offmetaplays. And you can subscribe there. Please subscribe, leave a like, comment, all that kind of stuff. Say some fun stuff in there. If you felt like your wonderful comments were overlooked in this chat, put them on the YouTube. It'll never go away. It's not even possible.
We will reply to them eventually. But I will say, there might be some of you out there watching this right now or watching the VOD that haven't actually subscribed. 58 or something % of the people out there that watch our videos have watched more than one and haven't subscribed. Like, what is wrong with you people? Subscribe to our fucking content.
Personally hurt. That is horrifying.
Adam spends a lot of time awake at night, like, who are the 58%? Who is the 42? Yeah, check it out. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Be alerted when we have new content up because we got great games that pop up on there, and we're gonna have to start having some more YouTube exclusive content. So if you've been thinking, well, I already get to check it on the Twitch, why would I do it? Why would I double dip? Well, double dipping's fun. I don't care what anybody says on Seinfeld. And secondly, it's good for us. So help us out. You can tweet at us at offmetatweets. That is on the Twitter machine, so you can tell us your opinions there. Rishi dropped some hints on what kind of scripts Rishi want to see, and we're gonna probably end up obliging, and then we'll have some more to come on the Twitter machine about news that's coming up with Off Meta. You can check in with us about what's upcoming. So big things that are upcoming for us. We'll have a Patreon that's going to be rolling out pretty soon here, very very soon. We're on the if we hadn't been laid low by illness and injury, we would already have it good to go. So check it out when that launches pretty soon here. And the best way to find out when that happens is the Twitter machine. And then you can join us on our Discord. I wish I had a handy link to give you, but our Discord is now a public community. You can come on here and join us and chat with us, be a part of our crew, talk to some of our cast and crew, all that kind of stuff. Root them on, all that jazz.
Yeah.
So check that out.
I think we'll post out the link to join our Discord probably on Twitter. And we also should put the scripts that we've created from these rankings out on Twitter as well. So we'll get to
That's
that
what someone said
On the
on the
Twitters.
Twitter or the
on
Reddit.
Twitter, so that
Right.
we have somewhere for folks to go and find it.
Sounds good. I don't know that you can put
You should
Jason's
be
up,
running
let's do it.
creme de la creme
We can
on
save it as a
at your
PDF,
home
Adam.
with your home crew. It's great.
6 fabled people worked on that script. Can't be wrong. And Jack.
I like how anytime we
Eddie.
bring up the Fabled group, you go, nobody knows what that is, and then you say it, and you're like, this is illustrious. Like it's the same. It's the same level of gravitas.
It's not. When
They
I
don't
say it,
know
it's
what
with
you're
an
talking
English
about
accent,
either.
So it
Well,
means
that's
more.
true.
I
Cyprus
said it.
accent.
I also have an
Okay.
English accent,
Mm.
but Adam,
Not the good kind,
just,
though. Not the good kind.
Mhm,
I have an
sure.
Elizabethan era English accent for people who don't know.
Mm-mm.
So check us out on the Twitter. You could also get 15% off your order at oldsoulartisan.com with the coupon code OFFMETA. Lovely scents for your games as you get people back into your live groups